When I'm 15, my mom, who has been divorced since I'm 4, remarries her boss. He's a recently widowed man named Bill, and he's a vice president of labor relations for a national trucking company, and he occupies a much higher socioeconomic class. So we moved to Naperville, which is a rapidly expanding upscale suburb of Chicago. But I'm lonesome, and I mourn the life and friends I left behind in Burbank, Illinois. It's hard trying to acclimate to a better life in Naperville. These preppy kids at my new high school are so different from my blue jeaned, blue collar Burbank friends. I feel I'm living among Izod wearing aliens. But the remarriage does provide many perks and upgrades to my lifestyle. In a bid to raise my sullen spirits, my folks buy me whatever reasonable things I desire, one of which is a beautiful purebred Persian kitten I named Shere Khan after the tiger in Kipling's The Jungle Book. Another is I get to indulge my Jones for hip and trendy clothes, and my wardrobe multiplies in quantity and quality. But the shiniest of these silver linings is I take weekly equestrian lessons at the very Tony Oakbrook Country Club stables. I have been horse crazy since the age before I could form memories. My mother tells me when I was 2 or 3, I announced, when I be born again, I be born a horse. And I live for these Saturday afternoon riding lessons. My mom takes me every week, and as I and the other girls put the horses through their paces in the ring, she sits in the glassed-in observation room / bar, sipping wine and talking with other parents, comparing notes and discussing how this one's daughter has a quiet seat and that one's a quiet hands. The horses we ride are not our own, but stable horses with differing temperaments and personalities and athletic abilities. Now, for those who are unacquainted with horses, they basically are creatures with the intelligence of a human 3-year-old. They have the ability to empathize and feel human emotions and understand verbal commands. So basically, you're riding on top of a roughly half-ton toddler. Every week, we students, who are mostly young girls and teens, jockey to ride their favorite horse, pun intended. It's an exercise in musical saddles as everyone tries to get their first to claim their favorites. But sometimes our instructors decide on which girl should ride which toddler horse, depending on what he or she thinks will improve the student's riding skills the most. As our horsemanship improves, we're encouraged to ride the more spirited and more difficult horses. Among these more challenging creatures, there is one in particular who has a stubborn and ornery personality, one no one likes to ride. In the era of Barbie dolls, he's the Poindexter no one wants to date. I don't remember his name, but I've since nicknamed him the Hulk because he doesn't have the elegant, long-legged conformation of most thoroughbreds. He's a stocky fellow with a muscular bull neck. Adding to his equine inelegance, he has a rough gait and he uses his powerful neck to pull at the bit constantly, making it impossible to have that quiet seat and quiet hands that our riding instructors and gossiping mothers drill us in. And you wouldn't want to like him, you wouldn't want to see him, and you wouldn't like him when he's angry. So one Saturday, it's my turn to ride this difficult animal, and I sense his contempt for my 5-foot-tall, 90-pound teenage self as he repeatedly breaks wind as he trots and canters around the ring. But I am fearless and determined to win him over and make him work for me. But he's not having it. He tries to cut the corners of the ring and only grudgingly changes leads on the canter when I nudge him with the outside heel and pull back with the outside hand to urge him to lead with his inside leg. This helps balance the horse around corners, FYI. My frustration with his doltish behavior turns to intolerance, and I forget all about coaxing him to be my partner. He senses my inability to handle him and turns into the center of the ring, stops, refusing to move forward. I kick his sides as I wrestle to get his head and move him back in line. This is when Hulk decides, okay, this shit show is over. Bucks his back legs as he simultaneously yanks his thick, powerful neck down, sending me sailing over his head, crashing to the ground flat on my back with such force it temporarily knocks the wind and my pride out of me and permanently knocks my naive fearlessness on horseback that I took for granted. Being thrown breaks my spirit, and I suffer PTSD for several years afterwards, as fear and anxiety form a knot in the pit of my stomach whenever I mount any horse, overshadowing any excitement and joy I feel in my heart. And it also breaks something else inside me, but it takes a week before I experience the effects of it. The next Saturday, I skip class because I'm sick with a high fever that alternates with body-shaking chills. Over the next week, the illness gets worse, and I suffer long periods of vomiting and retching. I throw up so many times my abdominal muscles from breastbone to pubic bone are sore from the exertion. My life is now perpetual misery with no end in sight, and I descend into a twilight zone of delirium, and eventually I convulse until I am unconscious. When I awake, I tell my mother I want to die. 2 weeks after being thrown by the Hulk, I am pounding on death's door, hoping he'll let me in. Hearing me say these words shocks my usually unflappable mother, and she rushes me to the doctor. And I go straight to the hospital from there after tests confirm that being thrown caused a rip in my appendix, leading to a growing bacterial infection. My body is being slowly poisoned from within as the infection oozes into my abdominal cavity and my blood. Fortunately, I am treated to a hospital stay for 3 weeks while they pump gallons of antibiotics through my veins and curing me. But there's a greater lesson I learned from being thrown and being in so much pain I long for death. We are all fragile, and we all have a breaking point. All of us can be broken, psychologically, physically, or situationally, to where death seems the best option. An experience which helps me later when I am jolted by the suicide of a friend no one suspected would kill himself. Thank you.
Thanks, Barbara.
That was part one.
That's part one. Okay. Working it out.
Yeah, part one, part two will be some. Yeah, I had to write this one before I could write about my friend. So.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks for that. All right, y'all. We're gonna move over to Ethan, West Coast. Great hair, LA. I'll stop talking and take it away, Ethan. Thanks, man.
Thank you. So in the fall of, or summer, sorry, already got to a great start. In the summer of 2015, I was in a very bad spell of depression, one of the worst of my life. I don't have, the story's not about this, but what I will say is if you have the chance, don't go to your high school sweetheart's lesbian wedding in Cleveland. If you can avoid that, that's great. And if you do that, don't fly Spirit Airlines round trip. So that's would be my advice. So I was in a pretty rough place, but I was with some friends back in New York where I'm from, and they were very helpful. And one of my friends named Mike was going to visit me in LA anyway, so he just flew back with me to LA. And we had a transfer layover because it was a cheaper flight to stop in DC at Reagan Airport and then take a flight from there to Los Angeles. Flight from New York to DC goes fine. And then we're waiting at the airport for the transfer flight. And they basically say, hey, there's something wrong with the plane. We don't know what it is. Check in a few hours. We'll see what's happening. It was the worst. Unfortunately, we have a delay announcement I had ever seen. So I was sort of in a rough place, and I was really pissed off about that. I just wanted to get home. But everyone at the airport was pretty pissed off. Everyone was rushing the attendants. There were no other flights available. They just couldn't get anything. Weirdly, this was also the day that the Supreme Court legalized gay marriage across the country. So it was a very weird emotional energy in the airport where everyone was mad, but they didn't want to show that they were mad. And looking at this, it's like, we're not mad about that. We're mad about this. It was that kind of energy. It was pretty funny. So it's like, when my grandkids ask me, hey, where was I when gay marriage became legal? I'm just gonna be like, freaking American Airlines, kids. Let me tell you. So I am texting my friends just on my headphones, minding my own business. And my friend Mike, I'm not friends with anymore because he's kind of insane. But you need like insane friends when you're in your 20s, just because you need to. You need people who can take you out of your comfort shell, do stupid shit with you, and make really reckless decisions that actually weirdly benefit you in the long run. And that was my friend Mike at this stage in my life. So I am just on my phone texting people. Mike's like, I'm gonna go see what I can do about this. And he goes to one attendant that's not being mobbed by everyone else. And I'm just on my phone, minding my own business. Mike comes back to me and says, okay, so here's what we got. We got flight credits for $300 each. We got a new flight out of Dulles Airport. We have a meal voucher for here, and we have a taxi voucher to get us to that airport for our next flight. And I was like, Mike, how did you do that? That's amazing. And he was like, promise not to be mad. All right, here we go. What do you do, Mike? That sort of became the attitude. And Mike said, so I was trying to talk to this woman and get her opinion. And then I was just like, hey, don't need to get the flight, but if we could get like a meal voucher or something, that'd be great. And then he said, I looked over at you and I looked back at her and said, I'm with my traveling companion here. He's mentally challenged, and so he can get really irritable if he doesn't get food in him. So if there's anything you can do, that'd be really great. And like I said, this whole time I'm just on my phone, minding my own business, apparently. And this woman was like, oh my God, totally, I'll help you out. And then she did everything for him. Apparently that's what I look like when I'm on my phone. I didn't know any better, but apparently, which is weird because I act and I'm like, could I win an Oscar for this? I just look, is this what I'm naturally, the energy I give off? Yeah, it works out. We get to Dulles. That flight was delayed because birds had attacked the airport or something, like the plane while it was landed. So we were delayed again, but I was trying not to melt down. And then I was sitting next to an Iraq veteran who was talking about stuff that happened in Iraq. And I'm like, I can't melt down about my own personal crap when I'm sitting next to this guy who's seen war. So that sort of jolted me out of that. We got home in one piece. We got in a cab. We got back to my place and Mike was staying there. And as we're pulling up into my place, my friend Mike says, by the way, when I was talking to that woman at the airport, as I was walking away, she pulled me back and said, hey, do you think he would like this? And she gave him, which he pulled out there, a little sticker of a star that said TSA special flyer. And he's like, he said, the woman said, would you like this? Would he like this? And my friend Mike said, oh, he would love it. And I did, for the wrong reasons, but you know what? You take what you can take any win you can get in that situation. So thank you.
Thanks, Ethan. Good story, man. Are you what do you do out there? Are you in comedy?
Yeah, I'm a comedian. I'm a stand-up and a writer and an actor. So and a storyteller. So I do a lot out there as well.
Nice. Awesome. Good job, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Next up, we have a little bit of a different spin on things because Keyana, Ken, I hope I'm saying your name right. If I'm not sure if it's Keyana or Keyana.
It's Keyana.
Keyana, I'm gonna get that right next time. I know it's been a minute since you were here, but I remember you. We are almost exclusively story. I'll remove Ethan's spotlight. He's not that good looking.
Can you see me?
Yeah. But we're almost always story, but Kiana's got a couple of little poetry, so she's gonna roll with that. Let's do it. And that'll be the first four. And then we'll take a little minute or two to breathe. And then just so everyone else knows, it'll be Pat, Skyler, David, and Tina if they all are still wanting to tell stories. Keyana, take it away.
Hello, everybody. My name is Keyana the artist. I am a poet, I'm a writer, and I'm an author. Through mental illness and disability, I am an advocate. My book is called Why We Won't Tell versus Why Anyone Listens. About me as a childhood trauma. I have a podcast actually called The Journey Artists Around the World, where I have different poets that come on and they're telling their story as mental illness, disability, different things like that. I'm gonna put in the chat box as well. And I'm also, I work with other kids too, that's been in suicide, mental problems and stuff like that. So Here goes one of my poems. Relationships. We look into the world of our fantasies, not knowing the world is our reality. I fantasies versus my reality. I fantasies versus my reality. I thought it was normal to live for. I was born to be Black. I am this issue that's called relationships. We live in a world of all types of relationships, abuse, neglected, no home training. I live inside of you versus I could be your mother, thinking I have the same goals as you. I thought it was normal to live for. Once I was in love, I asked myself, what does it mean to be in love? Love defines in a dictionary to what's between a man and a woman. Love, is it a name like in a book? Or love, is it like Bible-based, as love the neighbor as themselves? It says define love, love defines you. I live in the moments, I live in the moment of my past, I live in the moment of my present. I live in the moments, I live in the moments, I live in the moments. I live in the moment, I live in the moments, I live in the moments, and I live in the moments. Thank you for that one. And then
Thanks,
this,
Keyana. Oh, you got a second one, right?
yeah, I have another one.
All right.
So the relationship poem is based on how we look in the world. We have all types of relationships, especially like in mental illness. When you have a mother or you have a father or you have a sister or brother, they're in two different scenarios. So my other one is called Pretty Miss. And this is based on mental illness as well. Pretty Miss. I'm this little shy girl that's called pretty. I've been called pretty all my life. I know to be pretty because of the dark skin and pretty long hair. See, I'm pretty just the way I am. I'm this little shy girl that's called pretty, pretty, pretty. I'm the little shy girl that wants to fit in all the right places. See, I'm pretty just the way I am. I'm this little shy girl that's called pretty, pretty, pretty. Do I wear jeans or do I wear a skirt? See, I'm pretty just the way I am. I'm this little shy girl that's called pretty, pretty, pretty. I'm a little shy girl. I'm the little shy girl that wants to fit in all the right places. See, I'm pretty just the way I am. I'm the little shy girl that wants to be pretty, pretty, pretty. I'm a little shy girl. Do I wear plastic surgery or am I natural? See, I'm pretty just the way I am. I'm a little shy girl that's called pretty, pretty, pretty.
Awesome. Thank you, Keyana. Are you in Atlanta? You said? Are you in Atlanta?
Yeah, I'm in Atlanta, Georgia.
All right. I lived there back in the day, just after college. Good town.
Yeah.
Good town. Cool. Thanks for joining us and sharing that.
Thank you guys for letting me come on today. And I put all the information in the box.
Yeah.
And I'm also doing an open mic, which is on Saturday. And next on Monday, that's another open mic, but I have a feature artist as well. There's a program that I'm still doing, journey artists around the world. I have a young guy that's coming on Monday. He tells about his story, how he overcame, do like alcohol, and alcohol was how he became like mental illness stuff, but he overcame with poetry. Then I have a gentleman on Thursday as well. He's telling his story as well. So,
Cool.
And I had a lady on there last week. She had bipolar. So I told her to come on today, but she didn't come on today. So hopefully she'll come on and tell her story. So
sometime when it's the right time, right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, and feel free to put your stuff in the chat. People can link out. Interesting stuff. All right. I like that we see Julia. I love that it's so interesting on Zoom because get a little snapshot into people's lives, the backgrounds behind David. Like, I'm just so curious about what's behind David. I see Julia eating and like laughing a little bit. It's just a little snapshot. Like, you just wonder what Julia's eating. It might be French fries. I don't know. It could be French fries. It looks like it's something, right? Like maybe with chips with salsa or
It's cookies, frosting, marshmallows, and licorice.
Really? Wow. What the hell is going on in New Hampshire, man? Jeez,
I need comfort.
that's so awesome. You're not, yeah, like you're very clear on what it is. You need comfort. Fair. Who doesn't? Cool. All right. Thanks again, Tracey and Barbara and Ethan and Keyana. I'm always glad when anybody comes and tells stories or is here in the audience for any of the events that we do, but this one has a special place for me. Let's roll up into Iowa. A lot of shit's going down in Iowa. A lot. There's a professional baseball game that happened last week. There's all sorts of caucuses or caucus. I don't know what you say, caucus in plural. I don't even know if there's more than one. And other stuff, including Pat Coffie, who lives there. And she's got a very clean mouth. Pat, whenever you're ready. Let me take Keyana off. Unmute yourself. Unmute. I cannot unmute you. You must. Yes. Perfecto.
I'm going to have a shirt made that says, am I unmuted? It had been almost a year since that divorce, and he wanted to come and talk to me about my sons. I was in graduate school, and I was uneasy because so far I hadn't done anything or said anything or looked any way that he approved of. And even though we were divorced, I was still in that bind of thinking I had to please him. He came. The boys went to sleep. We went to the little neighborhood bar. It's called the Wagon Wheel. It's by the University of Iowa. And before we got there, I had to change out of my favorite graduate student clothing, you know, thigh-high, brightly striped socks with the individual toe pockets. I knew he wouldn't like them. He didn't. He didn't like anything I said or how I looked or those socks, and I gave in. I changed socks and shoes, and we walked to that little bar. I was crying. We got there, and we took a seat at the booth at the very front by the windows, and I could see across the way that the standard six-pack was seated at the bar. I could see their faces in the mirror. It was 5 men and 1 woman. And the woman said, all right, you fuckers, if you mess with my drink again, I'm gonna beat the shit out of each one of you. And then she gave this terrible grimace, meant, I suppose, for a smile so she could continue to cage drinks. Meanwhile, I have my back to the window. My ex-husband is facing me, and I can see down the way in the booths 2 couples in one booth, and they're playing the same 2 songs on the jukebox over and over. I know one of those songs. I've got tears in my ears from lying in my bed on my back, crying tears over you. I know that one. The other one I'm not so familiar with. It's called Let's Get Drunk and Screw. We didn't stay long enough to get drunk. We left. We did screw, and it was another year before I could break out of that and step out on my own in those toe socks to be myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Sorry. There's something about you and your image with those curse words that I love it. I don't know if you curse a lot in your life, but I think you should.
Oh,
Good story. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. All right. Let's keep rolling. And then again, you guys can put stuff in the chat. And then afterwards, if you have questions for people, or thoughts or ideas, as long as they're respectful and, you know, not that weird shit that people do for some reason and they start trying to fix you or like, don't do that. We're not doing that. That's why if you see in the event description, there's a lot of like, don't negative things. I don't want to be negative, but I just want to make sure people don't do that stuff. Let's go to Skyler. Skyler, you good to tell a story?
Yeah, I was trying to debate which one I want to tell.
All right, I want to make sure your audio is good. I know you've had some audio trouble in the past. Let's hear you. You good?
You can't hear me?
No, now you're good. Just check.
Oh, you
Just
can?
checking. You're perfect.
Okay.
Take your time. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a 99-second story.
Oh, love it.
Called The Floor is Lava. A childhood game that most have played turned to a nightmare in seconds. My little sister and I loved playing this game. We would set pillows on the ground and jump from couch to couch, pretending that if we missed, that it would be the end of us. And it almost was. As my little sister jumped on the couch, she missed and slammed her little head on the tile floor. She let out a scream that I never will forget, and I immediately picked her up. As if it would make it all better, my mom came running, and she soon settled down and stopped crying. We thought everything was fine, just a little bump on the head. But the next day, her head swelled up like a balloon. And we rushed her to the hospital, and she had internal bleeding. She fractured her skull. I thought my family was on the verge of being separated, all because of a game. A game. A child protective services played my parents and thought the game was more than just a game. I talked to them and I told them what had happened, and they eventually let my family be a family. And I was able to hold my little sister's hand as she went into surgery. She made a full recovery. So from then on, I started having nightmares of tragedy happening to her, and my depression sucked in. From that time on, I never played Floor is Lava again with her. As a mother, I try to be very cautious with playing this game with my own son, or I know that tragedy is always near. That's my full story.
Yeah, 99. Thanks, Skylar. I don't know how Skylar found my group, but she's been coming to the Friday swap, which if for you guys don't know, but the swap on Fridays is open. So if you ever want to come and get feedback on stories, and they're not like, it's friendly, I'd like to believe helpful, not weird feedback, or, you know, some feedback sometimes isn't helpful. Actually, Skylar, you could speak for that. If we suck, tell me.
Oh, that's
That'd be
amazing.
really, really awkward.
Okay.
Really
I like
awkward
it.
spot, but all right. Yeah, no, and it's cool. And I'm glad that you're trying the 99s, because that's a whole other thing. That's a challenge. So cool. That's the second 99 I've heard you tell. Second. It's going to be like this thing now. Skylar's 99 concert coming up. Like a bunch of.
Yeah. What's a 99?
Who asked that question?
Julia.
Julia. Are you not part of the revolution?
I'm not that one, I guess.
99 is simply a story told in 99 seconds or less. It's doable. On this call, and there are several people here who have tried them, and a couple people here have been to slam. I have a slam. Julie, you got to do it. It's a slam, so it's competitive, friendly competitive, and it's fun. David, David, have you actually ever gone to a slam, or did you just take a class?
Yeah, I took a class.
You'll be there soon. Tracy has been there.
It's difficult.
It's difficult. Tracy has been there and done exceptionally well. Barbara's been there, done very well, and Tina's been there and is our Tina. I'm gonna say it. She is our most recent Grand Slam champion, Tina McKenna, live from Poughkeepsie, New York.
So, you're swapping Friday nights. I must have lost that link.
Swap is not
Yeah.
on Friday night. Swap is Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, could you put that, I forgot about it too. Could you put that link or send it to us or something? Because
I'll
yeah.
put it right now I'll put the Zoom link right here in this chat. So make sure you
Awesome.
copy it,
Mhm.
Cool.
because if you don't, it'll get lost. Hang on one sec. I'll do that right now. Yeah, it's 3 to 5, and sometimes we go a little longer. And it's often a core of people who have been doing this for a while in this group. But I mean, I love new people. I love that Skylar's coming. I love that other people are coming. This is how we get better. So it's great. And then if there's an event, particularly for the 99, well, like a lot of people will come specifically for that. the Friday before, but either way, it's just an open group that we give and get feedback. So it's cool. I'm gonna remove Skylar's spotlight because she's like, dude, enough. Cool. Thanks, Skylar. David in Wichita, home of the Shockers. Are you ready to tell your story this evening?
Yeah, I am.
Cool. I'll stop talking.
I'm good. Okay. Normal. It was described to me in my studies 50 years ago or 46 years ago as what most people do. So why would this entire lineup be storytellers? Well, because that's not normal. So we all fit in with each other. We're not normal. I guess I challenge, and then I'm sure there's a deeper definition, but normal, what most people do. Well, I don't do much that most people do. Eat, breathe, sleep. But those are all involuntary things that, given the opportunity to probably not do it, I'd probably try. Again, not normal. I never had a fear of public speaking, so call me crazy. I looked at my wife one night and said, I could be as funny as Dave Letterman just was bad. And who thinks that way? Can't be normal. And yet it's not normal to eat while somebody's talking either, but non-normal people do that. I caught you, buddy. But anyway, not normal to work that into the conversation here either. So I don't know that we can get hung up on whether or not we're normal, because that's going to lead to a lot of robotic, basic, vanilla, well-trained, non-thinking for themselves set of the masses. And that subset of the masses appears to me to be getting larger and larger and larger. And that's going to be what becomes normal. So who wants to be that? I don't. It's become normal amongst my inner circle of family that talking about one's health, particularly when it comes to being vaccinated or how into the house am I going to stay, that the normal side of my family is telling me I'm nuts for getting vaccinated. And I'm nuts for protecting my wife with a weakened immune system. And I'm nuts and I'm nuts and I'm nuts that I'm wearing masks. And I struggle today for being not normal. So I hope you know a lot more people like me, because then I could be normal again. Boom.
Man, and he busted me for eating. Well done on that one, David. I love that you worked that into that story, or that yeah, man, funny.
Nobody else knew it was you. You just told them.
Oh, I'm fine with it. I am fine with it. I was eating cookies and licorice and marshmallow. No, I'm just kidding. I was eating potatoes.
You told them that?
What?
My friend's here. Hey, everybody.
Julie, we're getting a little back.
Yeah, I told him that.
No, David, I'm eating, just so you know, I want to let everyone know what I'm eating now. It's potatoes, hummus, olives, and something else Mediterranean. I'm feeling very Mediterranean.
Ain't nothing normal there.
No, and I love that you point that out. Yeah.
Well, you look very Mediterranean too tonight.
Thank you, Sherry.
Oh, you're more than welcome.
Sherry, what part of North Carolina are you in? I believe you're in North Carolina, right?
Yep, I sure am. Chapel Hill.
I'm in Chapel Hill.
No, you're like the new organizer. And I was
Well, I wrestled and took over one of the groups that there was no organizer, right? You were right.
No, I was so happy to see that. That's how I got to this.
Good. Yeah, because there was nothing happening with that group. Just so you all know, there's like a local meetup for like Triangle, North Carolina storytellers, but it was sort of dormant for months. And so I got alerted and I was like, all right, I'll hop in that role. Sure.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting you in person someday.
Fine, or somewhere else. I could care less if it's fine.
All right, I
Enough of
believe,
that.
yeah, I believe unless someone's has changed their mind, our final storyteller this evening is coming to us live from one of the more difficult cities in the world to pronounce. If you're just going to look at it and say it, you might say something like Poughkeepsie. However, that would not be correct. It's Poughkeepsie. So I'll stop talking and let Tina have the floor. It's good to see you, Tina.
Hi. I grew up in a house of mental illness, and the way I survived was I did not reject either my mother or my father. I embraced them, and I chose to understand them. And this is the story of my journey with my father. I had two fathers. The good daddy had blue eyes, and the bad daddy had green eyes. I only had one father, but he was schizophrenic, so I never knew who would show up. And I had an eating disorder, so I would sit at the dinner table and I wouldn't eat. So my dad would turn off the light and I would sit in front of my uneaten dinner till it was time to go to bed. And then he would send me to my room and I would sit on the edge of the bed. And he would make me wait a long time. And then he would start this long walk down the hall. And he wouldn't come into the room. He would just stand just outside the door. And he would flick on the light. So all you saw was this giant shadow on the wall. And he would just stand there forever, breathing. And then he would swing into the doorway, and he was huge. He was 6'5". And he would just stare at me. And his gentle blue eyes would slowly turn green. And I would wet myself. And then he would come into the room and he would beat the hell out of me. And then he would stand up and he would shudder. And his eyes would turn from that angry green back to blue again. And he would look down at me and he would say, "Oh my God, Tina, what have I done to you?" And I said, "It's okay, Daddy. I know you don't mean it." And then he would pick me up and put me to bed. And he'd sit on the edge of the bed. And then the blue daddy would tell these magical stories. And the plot was always the same. I was always in this incredible peril, and he would rescue me. The only thing that changed was the location. So sometimes I was in the middle of the ocean, and there was, flotsam and jetsam, and there would be these suspicious fins circling. Other times I would be abandoned in the Himalayas by Sherpas. And other times I would be high up in a tree in the Amazon rainforest while there were anacondas slithering about. And just when I couldn't stand it anymore, I'd say, and then, Daddy?" And he said, and then, high in a snowy tor, astride his mighty steed, with his blue eyes flashing and his golden hair gleaming in the sun, sat dut-la-dut-dut-dut, faint call of the bugle, McKenna of the Mounties. And he would swoop down and he would rescue me every time. Now, I never questioned how we would be in the middle of the ocean and there was that snowy tor or the horse. The only thing that mattered is that he was there to save me. So then he would kiss me on the forehead and leave, and I would crawl out of bed and I would go to my closet and I would curl into a ball and I would go to sleep. And that's how I slept for 24 years, in my closet. When I went to college, I had to wait till my dorm mates had gone to sleep, and then I'd crawl out of the bed and I'd get in the closet and I'd go to sleep, and then I'd wake up before everybody else and get back in bed so no one ever knew. When I'm 20, my father decides that he's going to invite death in. So I I go to the funeral parlor and I tiptoe up to the casket and I look inside and his eyes are closed. So I can't tell if it's the good daddy or the bad daddy. And he's so still that I begin to slap him and I say, how could you do this to me? Who's going to rescue me now? A couple years later, I head to New York. And when I'm 24, I'm doing a show at an avant-garde theater called Cafe La Mama. It's in the East Side, in the East Village in New York City. And we used to rehearse in this abandoned warehouse. It was right next to the firehouse. And there was no heat. And you had to climb up 6 flights of steel stairs in the dark to this huge empty room. And there was only like a bare light bulb hanging, a chair where the director sat, and this table. So I come in one day to rehearsal and I have this horrible fever. And the director, Ozzy Rodriguez, says, baby, you are burning up. You go lie on the table over there and we're just going to work around you. So I go and I'm lying on the table and I can see my breath. There's not a single pain in the entire room. And I'm shivering. And this man walks over to me. He stands above me. He has green eyes. And he takes off his brown trench coat and a navy blue sweater, and he knots the sweater into the shape of a teddy bear, and he puts it into my arms, and then he covers me over with his brown trench coat, and he doesn't say a word, and he just walks away. And under his coat, I fall asleep, and I begin to dream. And in the dream, I'm sleeping in a closet and there's flames all around me and I can't breathe. And I call out, and then Daddy, and then there's the snowy tor. And the lovely man with the green eyes rides up on a horse wearing a brown trench coat. The man wears the trench coat, not the horse. And he pulls me out of the flames and he smothers it with his coat. And he rescues me. And he's rescued me for 45 years. And he rescues me when one day I'm screaming and he comes into our bedroom and I'm standing in this pile of discarded evening dresses. And I say, I've gotten so fat. How can you stand to be seen with me? I look like Jabba the Hutt. And he goes, Tina, you do not look like Jabba the Hutt. You're beautiful to me. You will always be beautiful to me. And he's with me every 10 years when I have my dance with cancer. And I bug him completely about, am I going to die? I'm dying, aren't I? And he says, no, Tina, you're not going to die. I'm not going to let you die. But I don't let up. I ask him, when he's sitting on the toilet, in the shower, when we pull up to a stoplight, I ask him, I wake him up in the middle of the night and I say, I'm dying, aren't I? And each time with infinite patience, without a shred of anger, he says, no, Tina, you're not dying. So in our early years, every so often he would throw out that brown trench coat and I would fish it out of the garbage because I needed it, until one day I didn't. But I never needed it because it was on that night 45 years ago, under his coat. That was the last night I ever slept in a closet. Now when night falls, I'm embraced by sleep and the man with the green eyes.
Thank you, Tina. It's okay.
Green-eyed man is sitting right over here.
He's been at some of your other stuff. I know. He's there. He's always there next to you.
Yeah, he's always there.
He's always there. Hello. Hello. Always there.
Noble. His name is Noble.
Yes, actually, I remember that from the slam.
Yeah.
Noble. Hi, Noble.
Hi.
Are we ever going to get to see you, or is it just going to be this voice lurking in the background?
He'll be lurking. He's lurking. I'm
Okay.
actually throwing my voice. I'm a ventriloquist. I live alone.
Yes.
I'm a sad person.
You're really talented, man. Wow.
Woo!
Nice job. Thank you for that. All right. While you were telling your lovely story, all the stories have been wonderful. Julia said she might want to tell a story. So in this case, we've had a quick game change here, and Julia might be our final storyteller. Is that true, Julia? Am I correct with that?
Yeah, although I didn't know I was going to be following that.
Hey, it's an open mic. You know, we got all kinds of stories here.
I'm completely unprepared. But it's been like 2 years or more since I've told a story at an open mic. So I thought I was telling this new friend of mine today about some stuff that happened when I was younger. And I thought, well, I have one story that's really mental health related. So I'm just gonna hide my picture here because I really don't like seeing it. Okay, that's better. Yeah, okay. So when I was 22, I was in my last year of college, and I had been in this relationship with a guy who was actually a year younger than me since we were pretty much 18. I mean, it had been kind of like vague for a while, like, are we together, are we not, don't know. But then at some point it became more serious. We committed to each other and various things happened. All kinds of things happened. Sometimes we broke up, sometimes we came back together. But what we ended up doing in, oh gosh, was it really 2010? It's crazy. So in March of 2010, gosh, that does not feel like the right year. Well, anyway, something like that. In March of 2010, we took a trip together to Kauai, which is the least touristy island of Hawaii. We'll call him Ron. Ron had cousins an aunt and an uncle who were managers of a farm on Kauai, a small organic farm. And the owner of the farm said that we could stay there as long as we did some work. So I was really excited. I was also nervous because all of this was kind of Ron's doing, Ron's family. Ron had arranged it. And honestly, that's how a lot of our relationship had become. I was sort of revolving around him. I didn't know that there was another way to be in a relationship with someone. And it was not fun. It wasn't fun. I was unhappy a lot of the time, but I mean, I was happier than I had been when I was younger. Like some of you, I grew up in a really difficult household. So anyway, we got to Kauai and we worked on the farm for 3 weeks. And every night we would have, almost every night we would have like a jam session with his aunt and uncle, and they were musicians. And we would sing some songs that they had written and some songs that we all knew by other people. And it was really magical. The island is pretty small, so you're always relatively close to the ocean. And we were on the wet side. There's a wet side and a dry side of every Hawaiian island. And So it was rain, it would rain every day, and then the rain would go away and it would be sunny again. In the evening, yeah, it was just singing. Now, as dreamy as all of this was, I felt horrible. I felt upset every day. I felt really alone. I felt like I needed time to adjust to being in this new place. And I couldn't believe we were only there for a month, because I felt like I needed a month to adjust. And Ron was not supportive of that. And he really didn't care. And he didn't even take the time to understand that I needed the time to adjust. He was really a lot more happy just hanging out with his aunt and uncle and the plants, and also probably some smoking cannabis here and there. Anyway, the last week of the month came, and this was the time when we had been planning to go on this long hike. It's called the Nepali Coast Trail, and it leads to a place called the Kalalau Valley. And this valley is, at least at the time, it was completely isolated from most things. There was a small boat that would come there once in a while to bring like groceries that people might want from elsewhere, or fish that people had caught in the ocean to sell. There was a helicopter that occasionally came with tourists. And then there was the trail and whoever was hiking on the trail. And the valley was supposedly really magical, but it took some time to get there. It was about a 12-mile hike, and it was up and down and in and out these really tall, pretty scary cliffs along the ocean. If you're curious, you can look up, Kauai cliffs or something, and they're very beautiful and they're very tall, and very green. And so it was a lot of work. It took about 3 days, I think, for us to get to the valley. I had decided that for the first time ever, I would try wearing something called Vibram 5 Fingers, which are shoes that are basically like wearing toe socks that are made of rubber. I'd never done this before. So what ended up happening was I ended up stubbing my toe on like every rock for the whole hike. Because there's nothing to protect your toes. Usually you have something to protect your toes on a shoe. Even if it's a soft shoe, there's some kind of something. So I was in a lot of pain a lot of the time. Ron didn't seem too happy with me, and I was constantly trying to figure him out, figure out what was wrong and what I could do to make it better. And I could never really do enough to make it better. And he didn't really realize that I was doing that. And I was resenting him because he didn't really realize that I was doing that. And I was still doing my job though, because my job was to make sure he was okay. So anyway, at some point, like on the first day, I smashed my toe so hard that it truly feels like it's broken. And I'm scared and I'm in a lot of pain, like I'm crying in pain. And I look at Ron, I'm like, I feel like I need to go to the hospital. I think I need to go back. And he's like, well, I'm not going back. We got to keep going. I'm going to keep going. So I kept going because there was no way I was going to go back alone. I didn't really have anything. I didn't even know how I would, there was no reception anywhere around there. So there was no way I could call anyone to take me back to the farm. So I kept going and I was in so much pain. And then we finally made it. And when you first get to the openness of the valley, you can only see this field that you walk through, and it's all kinds of plants, but one of the most obvious ones at the time were these tall tomato plants bearing tomatoes, like mostly like cherry tomatoes, and they're everywhere. And, it never really freezes there. So if you throw tomato seeds somewhere, they're going to just keep going unless somebody intentionally stops them. So it was kind of like walking into Eden. You know, it was like we were surrounded by just tomatoes everywhere, freely available, looking really great, really perfectly ripe. And then we get out into the valley, and it's by the ocean, and there's a beautiful beach. There's an incredible waterfall, and there's old growth mango trees, and there's this incredible terraced hillside that leads down to the beach, which was created by the original ancestors of the modern day Hawaiians who came about 1,000 years ago, and they would plant what's called taro and all kinds of other stuff on these amazing terrace farms. And now these people who were staying here were eating everything that had been planted, basically. So honestly, I'm just indulging here because it was a really interesting place. There were actually people living there, not legally, and apparently every once in a while, you know, somebody from the government would come and kind of kick them out, but then they would start to accumulate again. So I guess you could say they were squatting, camping, and there were like little huts there, like people were settling, they had gardens. Nobody was in charge, and pretty much all the people that were settling were white people, probably American. So it was a little weird, but on the other hand, I was like, wow, I wonder what it would be like to live here. Lots of people were swimming naked and bathing in the waterfall, and we did a little bit of that. And then we started to head back after getting some mangoes and tomatoes and all kinds of stuff that was there. And, you know, it took another 3 days. The entire time, Ron was telling me that we were going too slowly, and if I was faster, we could have made it back in a day. Why was I so slow? And there's a point in the hike when you're on, and it's actually near the valley. Like I think we hit it on the 3rd day when we were going there, and then we hit it on the 1st day when we were heading back. And the soil there is like really like a rich sort of orange-red color, and it can get very dusty when it's hot. So we're on the very, very top of this very tall cliff, and there's no vegetation. It's just the red dust. And like, I'm not even sure the path was really marked out. Maybe there were some stones or something, a few. It's basically just dry red dust around us. And it's like this for like the equivalent of like a block, probably, or maybe 2 blocks. And it's known that people die on this hike regularly. They fall off the cliffs. And I was terrified. This is an advanced hike. I didn't fully get that when I signed up. So I had to really maintain careful footing. And I thought about how unhappy I was with Ron. And I had the first inkling that maybe there was another way to relate with people. And maybe there would be people that would have slowed down and would have showed concern when I stubbed my toe, and maybe I wouldn't have had to deal with that pain the entire time. And, you know, so the way this relates to mental health is relationships. Like Keyana was saying, or maybe it's Keyana, sorry, I don't remember. It's all about relationships. And if you don't know how to have a healthy relationship, life's gonna be really hard. So anyway, that was probably really long. I did not look at how much time that took. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you for sharing that. Wow, 9 stories, 9 tellers. Great job, y'all. Great job. I always love these stories. Oh, man. Some of these are not easy to tell. So what I'm going to do now is, other than thank everybody, I'm going to pop on gallery mode, at least to me. You can unmute yourselves. And if you have any questions for people, you want to chat. Now, I'll remind you, and I know you're all adults and you know you're very cool people, nice people. Just a reminder that when someone tells their story, they're not necessarily opening themselves up to be, you know, you know the list if you saw it, right? My list: fixing, diagnosing, pontificating, comparing, minimizing, pitying, platitudes are bullshit. That's a long list. All right, I don't want to be that guy. But it's just a reminder that, hey, you know, curiosity is cool. Ask them about it, but keep it at that.